Thank y'all for being a part of my panel today. I appreciate you. Oprah wasn't available, so I'm here. So thank you for being here. Today, I want to ask you the first question that I have for you in your different areas. As you grew up, how would you say that faith shaped you? We can have Christiana, you start first. Make sure your mic's on. Turn it on.
Okay, thank you. I'm usually not on this end of the microphone, but faith has basically been my whole entire life. My name is based off of my parents' faith, Christiana, Christian with an A at the end. My dad is a Baptist pastor. I'm a PK, and my mom's a first lady, and she's an evangelist out in the community as well. So it was just in my face constantly. I have so many quotes, so many scriptures just ingrained in my brain. VBS, it was just my whole life growing up. And very similar to Pastor Mario, which is why I think I felt very connected to this church.
You said a lot of words that some people don't understand, like PK, VBS. You know, how many of y'all know what a PK is? All right, it's preacher's kid. And they used to say that this light thing is wonderful. They used to say that PKs were the worst children. I don't believe that to be true. I believe that sometimes when you have someone looking at you at all times, the pressure to be right all the time makes you want to go in the opposite direction. And she also said something called VBS. How many of y'all know what VBS is? Y'all are saved, man. Let me find out. All right, Shayna, tell me how faith shaped you.
I don't, like I said, I don't even know if it was a choice at first. It is now, but my mama and granny's right there. Got them out because they drove from Louisville to come and support, and I just told them last night. So, but they didn't play. You know, we were in church all the time, honey. I was a liturgical dancer in the recorder choir and the Little Saints, the Vacation Bible School, Sunday school, but it was always something that was just instilled in me, and I was always taught if I had a problem, whether it be schoolwork or something, they always referred me back to God and back to Jesus, and that was our thing in our household. Everything, every problem I have, my granny like, you need to bring it to God in prayer. And even just watching my granny have a Bible on her nightstand, and every night she's praying and she's making sure, you know, my mom worked long hours, so sometimes she picked me and my sister up to make sure we made it to Sunday school, because sometimes my mama just made it to church, and that's okay. She go to Sunday school now, but just being that force and seeing my grandmother trickle down to her kids and to us, it started in a home, and to see how faith really is in our family, I couldn't be without it. You know, it was a must.
Yeah. Dr. Jamaal?
Well, I grew up in a household that wasn't very religious, but we were spiritual, if you can understand the difference. We believed in God, we prayed, but my father is a retired teacher, my mother's a social worker, so we always, you know, had great faith in God and understood the importance of service. It wasn't until I became, I met my now wife and was chasing her as a girlfriend that I chased her into church. So, you know, she was in the church. You know her well. She grew up in the church, and that's how I became part of the church and eventually baptized. But growing up, you know, extremely spiritual household, but didn't practice, you know, a lot of religions, Christianity, or any others. So we've always had faith, always understood the importance of service, and understood that God was omnipotent.
I want to know, when you all were growing up and you start going into school, do you feel that your calling revealed itself to you, or do you feel like your call chose you? Do you feel like it was revealed, or do you feel like it chose you?
Both a little bit, because I didn't know at the time that I wanted to go into media and to talk, but I knew I enjoyed it. And it was shown to me through church. The youth leader will always get me to make the announcements, and I used to be so excited. and everybody else was scared. And they're like, well, they know Shayna would do it. They would just give it to me. So I didn't realize at that time what God was shaping me for, that I would talk in front of the church and do things like that. And it wasn't until I got older, I was like, dang, God had been shaping me all my life to do that now, where speaking in front of people was never a fear of mine. It used to blow me away how people were scared, and that's the number one phobia in the world, is speaking in front of people. I love it. Like, truly, as a kid, I'm like, I want to do it, and I didn't even realize. So I think it's kind of both. And then going into school, a lot of people don't know this, I started off as a nursing major. I don't know why, I just knew it was security. And then I did not like it. I got my first D ever, and I cried, and I was like, okay, I got to switch it. And it was me praying, like, Lord, what should I go into? And I was like, I know I like talking, so let me just go in communications and see what it is. And praying to God, and he revealed, like, I've been shaping you for this all along. So I think it's kind of both. Like, I was shaped for it, but then I had to go out and seek it as well to figure out, the path for me.
Yeah, you said something that I think that a lot of people do when you said, I went into nursing because it was safe, secure. Do you feel that a lot of people wind up getting in areas that are not their calling because they want to be safe?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think we see it all the time. And even my sister, who wasn't able to make it, she went into cancer registry, and she's doing great at it, but her calling is entrepreneurship. Like, she loves coming up with products and selling into the mass. She truly loves that, and I think she's starting to see now that she wants to put that on the back burner and really just go for it. And it's scary, going for something that's not, quote unquote, a secure job. It's so scary.
Good.
I would say it was definitely a calling, because my mom had always said.
Do you have another mic for her? Do you have another mic?
Sorry.
No? Okay.
Can y'all hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say it was definitely a calling, because my mom had always said, this is your personality, and this is who you are. I did the announcements in church just like Shayna. I went up to strangers, and she never stopped me. Like, a lot of parents stifle their children, but my mom said, this is who you are. And I guess I didn't realize it until the doors started opening, and the doors that weren't supposed to open started closing. And if you're not in this industry, you may not know, but it's very difficult. It doesn't pay well. It's very easy to just leave and do something else. But I really, truly feel that God told me that this was the lane that I was supposed to be in. Just because sometimes things will line up and they just won't make sense. And I'll talk to people in the community that I feel like I was supposed to talk to. And it just is nothing but God. So it's definitely a calling.
Yeah. Y'all can talk. Like, I know y'all can say stuff. This is not golf. You can talk, here. So.
I think I'm definitely in my calling right now. My father was a long-time high school coach, so I grew up in the gym. If I wasn't in the gym, I was on the track or on the football field. And midway through high school, when I figured out I wasn't going to get paid to play basketball, I knew, first it was sports medicine. I knew I wanted to be involved in sports, so sports medicine was my first choice, but then it eventually turned into coaching. Now, I definitely consider myself an educator, not just out there trying to win basketball games. I'm able to, talk about service before. I'm 15 to 18 young men every year, and I lead those guys to not just become a team on the basketball court, but to help them change their lives and graduate from college and hopefully build the will to build a family and make generations of the children, grandchildren successful. But I definitely consider myself what I do a calling of mine.
Yeah. And for those of you who are here that might have a question too, if you do have a question, be thinking about that, because I'm going to open it up for question and answering for anybody who might have a question soon. Each one of you all said something about a mother, grandmother, dad that was a part of your background that also helped to guide you. Do you think that had you, it's not, I don't want to just imagine them not being there, but imagining those people who don't have that type of influence and how difficult that is to go into your calling when you don't have somebody like a mother or a dad or somebody that was saying, hey, I think this is the lane you're supposed to be in. Because you even said sometimes people stifle that. So do you feel that the people that you had in your life were very influential in you being in the lane that you're in now?
Yeah, my grandmother, also very strong individual, would watch the news every single night. My dad, I was with those two people all the time. They definitely reinforced this passion. And without them, you have to see something to know what it is. So I saw faith through them. Your personal experiences help you develop into the person that you are today. And they were a part of my personal experience, just seeing them deal with the situations and the way that they dealt with them. I think that was really instrumental.
I don't even know if I could without my support system. They have always been cheerleaders. Just like I said, I'd be so busy, and I called them yesterday. I'm like, oh, I'm doing this thing at church. And they're like, we want to come. and they're here. But I could not imagine. I was raised by a single mother. My father was not present. We have a relationship now, but at that time he was fighting his own demons. And the way my granny just always slid in and was that cheerleader. But when I told them I wanted to pursue media, they was like, yay, but what's the plan B? And I was like, well, I'm going to do this, but there really is no plan B. I'm just going to do this until I get there. And they was like, okay, we got you. But, they come from that secure, background, like, we'll have a plan B. And I was like, I'm not having a plan B. I'm just going to do it. And they were supportive and always, willing to, lend a hand. And if I had to host something, they would be there. So to not have them there, I don't know what path or what I would have been through, because you need those cheerleaders. I know if nobody else is going to cheer for me, I can call my mama and granny and they going to cheer, honey. They going to throw something on the grill because I got a B in math, okay? So thank you all.
Yeah, I'm definitely a firm believer that you become what you see. For me, having two parents in the household was huge for me. So even when they weren't around, if somebody saw me doing the wrong thing, that's Jackson's kid, I'm get smacked in the head, because they know me, they knew my parents. Like I said, you become what you see. We have geniuses out in the streets who could be bankers, work in medicine, be lawyers, whatever. But because they didn't have the example like you spoke about, they went that other direction. So to have parents or other examples to kind of lead and mold, and God me definitely made a huge difference.
I want to be controversial and ask this question, especially for Shayna. So a lot of times when you MC and do different things, you are MCing parties, weddings, receptions, all the types of things. How does it look for you to represent your faith in environments that don't merit you to do that? How do you stand your ground? And I say that because a lot of people, this person I knew recently, they were telling this person that they shouldn't do whatever they were doing as far as in their industry. But yet at the same time, the same people who told them they shouldn't do it, the church also hired them to do something for them. So how much of a double standard is that? For you to tell me, you shouldn't be being a DJ at the Creole, but yet you want me to DJ the church function. You see how that sounds? Like how that's like a double standard. It's like, I want you for us, but don't go out there for them. So I want to know, how has that been for you? The very first time, I know Shayna's been with us for a while, but I remember, was it Melvin's wedding? I think it was Melvin's wedding. Yeah, and she said something, and I was like, I don't know how to take that. But she said, I want to introduce you. He's going to pray. I want to introduce y'all to my pastor. She said, so for all of y'all who are going to be clubbing tonight and staying out late, she said, if you have a hangover, you can just stay out all night. She said, our church starts at 1 o'clock, so it will wear off by then. She said, so I was just like, I said, that is the weirdest plug I have ever heard. I said, but I'll take it. So how do you exercise your faith?
Well, that phrase I got from my mama, because we would go out as kids at teen parties. She's like, if I'm going to drop y'all off at these teen parties, everybody who she picked up, we all had to go to church. She didn't care if you went to our church or not. We all piling into her little blue Stratus, whatever that car was. Yeah, and y'all going to church. But, I feel like I just have to be me in every instant, in every event, and God is in me. And so I've told the story to people where, and Christiana's been out and with me, and, we're turning up, and then the next thing you know, I done dropped into a praise break and had altos over here, tenors over here, and it's just me, and that's what God leads me to do. And I pray over every event. I don't just take everything that comes my way. If it's for me, it'll be for me. But also, I have a job, a talent that God gave me, and I said, why would I not use it? It may be somebody in that club who don't know Jesus and see him through me. You never know where you'll find somebody at. Like you said, people think, oh, we got to find them in the church. But that broken person might be at that wedding reception. That broken person might be at that club looking for the answer. And I feel like if I can save just one person with me doing what I'm doing, I'm on the radio, I'm cracking jokes, I'm talking about everything. And one time I had a listener call me and said, I thought about committing suicide today. And you just had me laughing. And she was like, something you said just told me not to do it. And this was early on in my career. I'm like, what? I have a man that I've run into all the time who said he listened to me while he was incarcerated. And every time he walks up to me, he said, if you can't change people around you, change the people around you. And he said, I needed that because the reason why I was in jail was the people that was around me. And I used to be in my cell thinking of that. So it's just like, I'm not going to stop doing what I'm doing because to the quote-unquote woke Christian, it looks crazy. And I'm a big biopic person, so I'll end with this. But I was watching, have y'all seen the George Foreman biopic on Netflix? So I was watching that, and he quit boxing because he thought that was it was his calling to go preach. He quit the very thing he loved to go preach. But 20 years later, God revealed to him, you can still preach and do the very thing you love. And he became the heavyweight boxing champ at 45 years old. If God gave you that gift, he is going to fulfill that promise, and you can still praise him with that gift. So you don't have to quit. Sometimes God is like, I want people to see you in that light. And so that's how I look at it.
Put her in the key of A flat. But I think that's very important because there's a lot of people. I remember the story of Bishop Kenneth Ulmer one time said that a guy came up to him and said that he felt called to preach. He said, why? He said, because the Lord just delivered me from a particular lifestyle, and the best way that I can honor him is by preaching. And he said, all right, sit on that, come back to me. So a year later, the same guy came back to him and said, I mistook my gratitude for God changing me for going in a lane that I'm not called to. And there are a lot of people who are just grateful for a changed life, and you feel like the best thing that you could do is preach. When sometimes the best thing you could do is cook a meal for somebody, be somebody's caregiver, or whatever that is. That is a calling, for people to say, hey, I'm a caregiver. That's what I am. Somebody needs to be there, So I'm grateful that you said that. That was really good. And I might use that one day. You credit first time, second time is mine. All right, Christiana, were you going to say something?
I was just saying that was just good. But she always spits gems in her just special way. I would say that I think about this a lot because I feel like being a Christian in 2023, a young one, you're just in constant conflict with a bunch of different ideas and trying to figure it all out for yourself. But what I have found out for me, it's just based off scripture. It's just, whatever you do, just do it for the glory of God. And for me, that means love. And he said that love was the greatest thing that you could have. And I try to just approach everything out of love. Like, sometimes I even have to check myself. Like, am I doing this story because of this? I'm always like, is this a good representation of God? And, is he showing through me in this story or this conversation or this interaction? And, people will try you, and it's not hard and it's not easy, but that's why I love this place, because it's taught me a lot about growth and grace and having patience and not being perfect.
I'm far from a preacher. When you asked me to do this, I said, are you sure? I might get up on your stage and say something.
That's not what he said. I'm going to tell you what he said. He said, are you sure you won't be on stage? He said, I might cut somebody out. I said, that is perfectly fine.
But more than, like I said, I'm able to lead 15, 18 young young men every year. I've been doing this for 20 years, so coaching is my ministry. So we were at church this morning. So I'm able to set an example to push them to do things that maybe they wouldn't want to do. They could be back in the dorm. Every day when we break practice, I huddle guys up and I'm able to give a sermon. So, although I'm not a biblical scholar like yourself, I can lead by example. I can kind of nudge them in the right direction. They see me being a father. They see me being a husband. And these are young adults, so they see through bull crap. So I'll say one thing and then do another. They call me a quick. So leading by example and nudging them in the right direction, that's really how I'm able to practice my faith.
You said something I want to give. Go ahead. And if any of you have questions, just go ahead and stand right here, and we'll give you a microphone. If you got questions, just go ahead and stand right here. But I wanted to. You said something that I want to land on for the next. How long did it take you to stand on your own? Not talking about career, not talking about money, but stand in knowing without any doubt and question, this is who I am. I said that because a lot of times he said something jokingly, but we say, I'm not like you, I'm not as saved like you, or I'm not whatever. But your lane is just as effective. We sometimes make this particular lane, some of us have done a poor job, especially pastors, as if this is the pinnacle of it, like this is the greatest thing you could ever do, when there are bus drivers who are called, and there are bus monitors, and there's foster care, people who are really called to do that. So how long did it take you to say, this is who I am, and this is what I'm called to do? Especially because your lanes also cause you to not be in the building a lot. So sometimes we feel like when people are not in the building, you got to pray for them that they come back in. Pray they come back into the church. They out there doing their thing. How long did it take you to really land on what your lane was?
I'm a nerd, so I would say it happened when my prefrontal cortex fully developed, because I really understood things. Like, I just woke up one day and it was like light bulb.
Okay. I know what it is.
Working on it.
Y'all not gonna clown me on these live streaming. When did you start talking about the prefrontal cortex? Like, when did you my prefrontal cortex? I mean, like, what?
No, it's really a thing. Like, when you hit 25, I think that's like the sweet spot where a lot of things start making sense for you, and things that your mom or your grandma told you for years and years and years, you had in your head but you didn't really connect with, they started making sense. And you started to answer the questions that you had in your head with the advice that they gave you. And that's just when it worked for me.
I think for me, it's happened in different stages, okay? So one being, right when I moved to Lexington, I just accepted the full-time position, and I was still trying to cater to everybody else and do stuff so go do this stuff in Louisville, go do this, and my friend was telling me, you need to slow down. And I was like, I got it. And one day leaving Louisville, trying to do both things, I got in a really bad car accident, totaled my car. And the way the people ran to me in the car, I didn't even know I hit another car. They had ran to me and was like, oh, thank God. We just knew like you was gonna be messed up in here the way your car. So I think that was just a realization like, okay, God saved me from that, because looking at my car, it could have been way worse. And the fact that I didn't have to go get any medical attention or anything, I think that's when things clicked to me. Adulthood, real life, everything just kind of came flashing in that one moment. It was like, I could have been gone, and what was my legacy, or what was it going to be, right? Oh, she just made Flex as a full-time as radio personality, but what have I left? So from that moment, everything that I do, from hosting to on air to being at church or volunteering, even in my sorority, what mark am I going to leave people and how people are going to feel? Because life can change in a matter of a second. So I think that was a real big eye-opener for me. When I started to look, this is who I'm going to be, and what do I want my legacy to lead? And I want one thing them to say is, we saw God in her, we saw Jesus in her. Not only me doing helping, but I really saw her faith in her. So.
I think for me, it's probably mid-20s to early 30s. A lot happened in that small time span. I got married, became a father, I lost a job, and I gained a job, all within 5-6 years. So losing that job a year after I got married to having absolutely nothing, to go and move to Alabama, we were broke. Broke. Like, yeah, real broke. And then we're in Alabama 3 years, and then I got a head coaching. My 2 kids were born in Alabama. Got a head coaching job 3 years after we moved to Alabama, and I realized, all in that, spending time being a husband, father, getting an opportunity to be a head coach. Right after, losing a full-time assistant coaching job that many people don't get at a young age. So I began telling myself, every decision I make is not just affecting me. I got a family. I got assistant coaches who have families. I have players. So every decision I make, I need to, pray on everything, meditate on everything, and just, you can't go with the crowd. My circle had to get smaller. But that's when it really hit me that every decision, everything I do, I need to take time, pray on it, and ask what I need to do instead of just making snapping decisions.
Good. Clap for him. That's good. We got a question. Any other questions? Shall just come to this is our talk show. It's live. So any other?
This question is for Dr. Jackson. So as a father, a leader, and you talked a lot about service. So the question I have is like your passion and your calling lining up with your duty as a father and a husband. How do you make sure that those things line? Like, what do you do to make sure those things line up?
The coaching part is how I feed my family. The leadership, that's what I love to do. I love to coach also, but I can't. Coaching takes so much time out of my schedule. I still want to be a father and husband, like you said, and I want to be an example for those guys. So my wife is in the gym. My kid, especially my son, they're in the gym. My son's on the road when he can be. He's in the locker room, and I have to just combine the two. Make time, definitely make time for my family, but I need to make time for those young men whose parents I told them I would love them. So my family's at church with us this morning. I have guys at my house just to be there, just give them a meal. But I just had to find a way to combine the two, so I'm not sacrificing my family, but also have a duty to these young men.
Clap for him. That great question.
My question is kind of referring to my life just because I'm just fresh out of college. And I know I literally have 2 degrees in business, but I work at a high school right now. I'm not a teacher. I'm kind of like a counselor, but I know, like, for me personally, I had been kind of groomed into doing things a certain way because maybe we looked at it as a superstar child, or it's just an expectation. So what do you do, or what do you do when you are looking to do something that your parents didn't expect you to do, or that they probably don't want you to do? Like, how do you handle that when things aren't going according to plan? So, you get what I'm saying?
I can definitely speak on that, because when I called them, it was like, yeah, I'm going into radio. They was like, what? Like, is that even a real job? Like I said, they're cheerleaders, but they was like, it was one of hey, is she gonna make some money? Like, how you gonna get into this? And I think the thing for me was one, prayer, and I kind of gotta, you kind of, as much as we love our parents are not living our lives. And that's just what it is. So I think once I had that initial conversation, and I think it was kind of hard, I tried to slide in, I changed my major. And they was like, what? You graduate in a year. And I'm like, yeah, I know, but this is not what I want to do. So I think once I told them, I think my goal was to show them. because words are nothing without action. So it's more of like, I could tell them all day long this is what I want to do, but I had to show them. And to the point where when I graduated college, I was working a job. I got offered a job at Enterprise coming right out of college, making like $50,000. And for an individual right out of college, that would be great. And I had to turn down the job because they wouldn't work around this one day that I had a radio show. And so I remember like my family like, you gonna turn that down? I'm like, yeah, because that's not what I want to do. I know I'm not gonna be there long term. So they saw me hustling. They saw me subbing during the day and doing radio on weekends. And it was to the point they started to reach out. Okay, she is really dedicated and she's not playing about radio. What can we do to help? Like, so I started going to radio conferences and I am broke. And I'm like, I ain't even gonna ask nobody for money. But next thing you know, I heard my mom with an envelope, but here's a little money for your plane ticket. Granny's like, do you need some spending money? Because then they started to see that I took it seriously and that I couldn't live hating what I did, you know? And I think I had that conversation with my mom one time. I was like, and I love my mom to death. And I said, Mom, I hear how much you come home complaining about work. And I said, I don't want to do that. I don't want to. And she, you know, she was like, I get it, you know. And to the point where she was like, you made me want to go back and do some things and change my perspective and maybe go back to school and do the things that I had dreamed of. So you never know how you can be a beacon of light to your family and just show them. Just show them.
Somebody else? Come on. Come on, mother. You got, yes, come on up. Come on up to the, I like your shirt, trending. Come on.
God is trending, yes.
Ain't he?
Okay. Christiana, you alluded to this, but I wanted to see if you could elaborate on it more. How do you steadfast in your faith this day and age when we are being challenged so much by different things? For example, I work in DE&I, and I'm an advocate, and I'm constantly being challenged in different ways, especially the different groups that I support. And I was also having a conversation with my cousin who was also exploring her faith and like, where does she stand? But she's also she's in college and she's being pulled different ways. And so I'm trying to like find grounding within myself and also support her through that. And so I was wondering if you could offer any advice. Thank you.
Yeah, like I said, this is something I struggle with a lot. And I would just say to try to take it decision by decision, day by day, because when you look at it big picture, it becomes overwhelming. Every single situation, you might have 5 situations happen to you that day, but I would just say take it decision by decision and know that you're going to make a mistake. But then when you make that mistake, you just come back to the cross, you know, come back and ask him what I did wrong. Ask yourself questions. What could I have done differently? How can I do it better next time? Because that's one thing that I had to get over, the fact that I am going to make mistakes. Being a PK, there's a lot of, sometimes you can struggle with perfectionism and isolationism and just trying to do everything right, but I just had to accept that I'm going to make mistakes and I have to learn from them and ask God for help to do it better next time.
Any other questions over here? Yes, come on, mother. Now, I will come down to mother.
This is not a question. My daughter, she's taught me things as well as I've taught her. When LaShayna went to Moorhead.
Oh, she just said the whole name.
LaShayna, when she went to Moorhead, she wanted to be a nurse. But then when she said, Mama, I can't think of what I want to do. And so I said, and I thought about what she was saying, that she was never scared when they asked her to speak on something. I said, you got to have a plan B. And so I told her, I said, communication, because I knew that she was good at that, was communication, and she has been doing it ever since. Now, you had said something about how you can outreach other people. Okay, I'm a bus driver, and I've been a bus driver for 23 years. I'm going to retire in the next 2 more years. I used to be a teacher assistant for Head Start, and she's right, I used to come home and I used to complain. Well, I had to get on my knees and ask God to help me. Not only, it's not that I didn't love teaching, it was the negativity that was around me. So when I got into bus driving, I said, okay, God said, now you still got to teach the kids. So that's what I had to do. And I work with special needs. First, I work with the regular kids. And let me tell you, those kids can be off the chain because they can try you, boy. They will bring you there. But then I went home crying one day because I said, Lord, help me to reach these kids, not to act negative because they act negative towards me. So I started talking to them about my life and what they would have to go through because kids do not want to hear about rules. And I had to tell them, you're going to have rules for the rest of your life. And I said, if you make up your mind that you're going to do it, I said, how do you think you're going to make it in this world? When I was a young girl, and yes, I was a cusser. When I was a young girl, I used to tell supervisors off. It took my mother while I was raising my 2 children. She said, how you going to pay your bills? That stuck with me hard. And that was what she was telling me, you can't be doing this. Sometimes you have to humble yourself. And that's what I had to do. So I do the same as far as driving the bus. And now I love working with the kids and telling them. And they want, because they always say, you are the first person that they see. So I love working with and telling them. And I don't ground them when they do wrong. I just try to understand what is going on with them. Because that's what they want. They want that unconditional love. I didn't realize it at first, but I just kept praying and praying. If it weren't for my mother, Lord, thank you, Jesus. If it wasn't for my mother, I tell you, I'd be lost. And that's how she raised me and my 2 brothers in the church. I have a brother that is a preacher. I have both brothers that are preachers, and one was a pastor of a church, and now he's looking to pastor another church, and he's calling it the Rose of Sharon Diversity Church. In other words, he's not looking at no color. All is welcome, as God did in the Bible. And that's all I wanted to say.
I see where you get communication from. She said, your grandmother said, she said, your mama said, that's all I want to say. Your grandmother said, and get said a whole lot.
This is them all the time.
So I have in our last few minutes, and I want to say this for those of you who you came to church, you're like, I wanted a word. Well, Scripture says that we become living epistles. So sometimes, yeah, I can do a little 40-minute type of message, and that's great. But it's great when you see faith on display, people who are living it out. So this is why I want to do this. I want to change this up real quick. I hope it doesn't take us to a place that y'all don't want to go. But can you have faith and be connected to organizations that may not be faith-filled? It is a trending topic right now that everybody is denouncing some organization. Denouncing it, saying all of a sudden they have now come to the light, and they have all of a sudden realized that they had been in darkness for all this time. And now they are, denouncing things as public, everybody's trending or whatever. So I want to get your thoughts on how it is to live out your faith in different areas. If any of y'all dare to touch it.
I'll speak on one thing. I'm part of like you said, Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. One of part of our motto is to serve all. Can't go too much into it, but when we were going through a process, we spoke about God many times, and God being above all. So I really don't, as far as your question goes, I really don't see how being part of that organization would be counter to what God is teaching us. But as far as being myself personally, being a part of an institution, not being able to show my faith, something I heard from Dr. Herman Felton. He's the president at Wadley College. Dr. Emmanuel, you heard this. So I'm going to cite him one time after this is mine. Yeah. He said, my God don't play about me. That's right. So whatever organization I'm part of many organizations, I bring God into it. Mm-hmm. If they don't, if they're not accepting, either they're going to leave or they're going to become accepting. But God don't play about me. So even as far as the decisions I make, they're not all popular, but I'm going to make them because my God don't play about me. So whatever happens. If you want to try to harm me, I feel sorry for what's going to happen to you, because my God don't play about me. That's right. So as far as me, me practicing my faith in whatever organization or institution I'm part of or group I'm a part of, I'm not going to not show my faith and not practice my faith because of whatever they're doing and whatever they're thinking.
I've saw a lot trending too, and as stated earlier, I'm a part of the illustrious sorority of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, and we're founded on Christian principles, so that was one thing that drew me into my sorority and finding out, because a lot of the people I saw was in church. A lot of the AKs I saw were in church. It was my Sunday school teachers and was this. So to be a part of an organization that puts God first was amazing for me. And I think a lot of times when people denounce certain things, are you looking into yourself? Was it you putting this whatever above all? Or did you couldn't balance? And balance is a tricky thing, and you have to balance everything. Even with our job, a lot of our jobs are not founded on faith principles. It's some old white man that probably owned our family years and years ago, to be honest. But I had to be the one to step into this workplace and say, like you said, God don't play about me, and I love the Lord. You walk into my studio, you see a verse of the day. You see even I do top 42 here, and I'm on there saying, we got to bring it in prayer. We talking about Britney Spears, something she did. I'm like, we need to bring her to the altar. And now I got the white folks talking about, we got to bring Britney Spears to the altar, So it's going to be in my walk. It's going to be in my talk. And I know how to balance to put God first. I know to pray over every situation. I know why we fail to grieve is because we don't bring it to God in prayer. And I live by that. And I think those that were, and it's just for me from the outside in, looking in, those that maybe were denouncing and doing things, maybe they just didn't know their balance. Because like you said, you can do a lot of things, and God wants you to be out here. God is not a God that wants you to be boring, okay? He don't want you to be bored, so he's going to put you in places and situations so that your light can shine to others. Because there may be somebody in that room or at that job who has never heard of Jesus or did about it. And I don't know or what, but we know with you. So it's like sometimes you may thinking you're denouncing it to get closer, but are you taking yourself out of situations where you can spread the light and gospel to those who need it?
The word that kept popping into my head was discernment, and you guys might have heard that word before, but the time that it hit me the most was in a world where we reporters are expected to knock on a stranger's door and sometimes go into their homes after only maybe a 2-minute conversation. In the beginning, it was just whatever for me. It was just fun. I was la, 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 la. But then one time, and I'm getting choked up talking about it, I walked into a house that was full of demons. And I didn't know what to do. And it was the second time I had encountered it in a matter of time. And I didn't know what to do. But my people, the elders, they knew. Pastor Mario knew. Deaconess Reed knew what to do. My mother knew what to do. All I knew was to call my mother. And I called her, and she heard it on the phone, what I had heard, and she started praying. And then I heard it. And then I felt it was the first time it was real to me. And then that's when I knew. You have to pray before you go into anybody's home, anybody's event, anybody's anything, because these spirits will latch onto you. And it's so real. And I didn't know it was real until then. And so now, wherever I go, I was walking in fear at first. But now it's not so much fear, because God hasn't given me the spirit of fear, but it's just awareness. It's awareness of knowing that, you have to be careful and that things are out here, and you're not untouchable, but you can be protected if you have the right tools, which is, of course, God.
I wanted to, as we wrap up, to see if y'all had any final words that you want to say to encourage anybody who might be on the verge of going into whatever area that they feel called to go into. Shayna might have an announcement as well, if she wants to do that too. But whatever final words you all want to say, I want to give you all that.
I will just leave by saying, whatever you do, whether you eat or drink, whatever you do, do it for the glory of God, and that's it.
It's a great time to be you, right? It's always a great time for you to be you, show up as you. And I like to do that in Christ. And I think that was one of the biggest things is allow myself to be me, what Christ has destined me to be. And like Christiana said earlier, bring everything to prayer, everything to God in prayer. You know, so many times, and I'm a victim of it too, I want to call, girl, but I'm like, let me pray over this first. So just bring everything to prayer and really listen to God's voice. You know, a lot of times people come, they're wolf in sheep's clothing, telling you what you should do. And, you know, somebody give you a suggestion, okay, I'll listen to it. Let me take it back to God and see what I get from that, you know. And the discernment to tell you if that's a wolf in sheep's clothing, if you have that relationship. So, but as far as the announcement, I could give a partial announcement. I thought I would be able to tell it all, but it's just not at that time. But I will be leaving Lexington soon. It's been a great 4 years. Been the full-time host on 107.9 The Beat and taking over your middays. But my career is elevating in a different direction, I would say. And God is so good. And I shared this with Pastor Mario this week that a few Sundays before we left the old building, I don't know if y'all remember, but he said he wanted to walk around and talk to everybody at altar call. He wanted to talk to everybody. And when he got to me, and I've never talked to him about my career ever, he was like, God is telling me something big and great is on the way. And surely that week, I got some phone calls and some emails about an opportunity. So I will be sharing that opportunity soon. And I'll be going away, but it's not a goodbye, so see you later. And I can't wait to share that news with everybody, but I just got to make sure all I's are dotted and all T's are crossed before I get ahead of myself. And I thank you all for being a community to me and embracing me. And Pastor Mario, as you know, he be outside. I call him the outside pastor. I'd have been in the club, and I'm like, hold on. And he's there with his water. How you doing, Shayna? How you doing? And I love that. That's what I'm like, we had Thursday night. I'm like, he's like, I'm outside. I said, I'm outside too, okay? And I'm glad that your flock is able to see that, you know, that we are able to see, you know, you're going to be uptight. No, I don't do this, but you're out there because people love to see the pastor. Some people are loving to speculate, like, what he out here doing? He having a good time just like you know, and doing it right. So I thank you all, and be looking out for that announcement shortly.
Congratulations. Thank you. I would just want to say, the closer I've gotten to God, the stronger my relationships has gotten with God, the easier it is to make decisions. Like I said, I got to make a lot of tough decisions. Lots of tough decisions that affect people's lives. But because of my relationship, my values have grown. My foundation has gotten stronger, so I'm comfortable. Once I make that decision, I'm comfortable. Even the unpopular ones, I'm comfortable. So that's what I would say to the people who are wavering. You know, from my perspective, the closer you get to God, the easier it is to make your decisions. Amen. And the more comfortable you'll be after making those decisions.
Will y'all give all my panelists a hand at this time? We're going to take a picture. Sit